All right, guys, we're back, and again, we're working on the never-ending project, the 6.5 diesel. If you remember in the last video I made on this, we ended up getting the wrong pinion seal, and so I got that pinion seal in, I installed it, and everything worked out good. But got that done. I topped off the transmission and everything, got it ready to go. We took it out for a drive and everything was going smooth, and I got back and it was leaking like crazy from up here in the front somewhere. And I got looking, and evidently when I changed out the filter and everything inside the transmission with the new oil and everything, it must have increased the pressure just enough and allowed a lot more flow through the cooling of the radiator system, and it ended up blowing the line out of the cooler radiator. The auxiliary cooler is what they call that. So all it was is I went down and went to AutoZone. I bought these little clips, put a new clip in, and it fixed it. So we got all that going now. Transmission's topped off. Everything is good there. And so what we have to do now is, if you remember, there's a turbo drain that has a little hose and a gasket. We're gonna fix that. I noticed while I was looking at that earlier that there's a wire that goes to the front glow plug on the passenger side. And so that looks like a mouse has chewed through it or something. So we're gonna reconnect that, put some wire loom over it, and then that'll take care of that issue. Then for the front tire here, we do have the ABS sensor yet that needs to go on, and then we'll go from there. So I do want to try to get this all done and wrapped up. I'm just going to keep on fixing things and then driving it a little and fixing it and driving it until I get it to where it feels reliable to me, because I had it running for about 45 minutes the other day when I was trying to drive it around and just see how things were going. And I'll tell you what, with the new filter and the new fluid in the transmission, everything feels way more solid now. It used to be you'd put it in gear and you'd have to wait, like maybe 5 seconds, and they would kind of slowly kick in, then it would kick in. Now, as soon as you put it in gear, it's right there. It kicks in like instant. So you guys seen how nasty that oil was? I think we're all good as far as oil changes and stuff like that. The only things I haven't touched on this yet is the coolant system and the power steering. All the other fluids are done, cleaned out. Leaks fixed except for one, and I'm thinking it's going to be that turbo drain tube, but we're gonna change that out and just eliminate that altogether, and hopefully that little leak goes away. If not, I guess we're gonna have to address it wherever else it's leaking, because I've put a front crank seal in. I've done the output shaft seal off the transfer case. Now the pinion seal, those were all leaking. Yeah, that's what happens when these vehicles sit for 15, 20 years. Everything dries out on them and rots away. So cars are made to be driven. You have to drive them to keep everything lubed up. If you let them sit, that's the worst thing you can do for them. And so let's go ahead and I'll walk you around and kind of show you a few things on what happened here. All right, so you can see I've got a piece of cardboard here, because when that line, let me see if I can get you in here and show you this. When that line blew off of this radiator, right there, see that new clip on there? When that line came off, it just flung oil all the way down, all the way underneath the vehicle. Everything's wet. It's all over the engine bay. You can see how shiny the floor is here under the ramps. The entire, when I was driving it up on the ramps, from all the way outside, all the way up here, I had a big puddle right here. Ended up crawling underneath it and wiping it all up with paper towels. But you can see what's kind of been dripping off of it, just sitting there. And the little black there, that's the little oil leak that we have that I think we're going to take care of in this video. But Yeah, so that was crazy. And so if we look down here where that turbo drain tube is, you probably won't be able to see it, but let's see here, right down there past that little canister is where that thing is. Okay, so right here is that broken wire. We're gonna have to connect that back up. The other one's kind of under there. You can kind of see it back in there. We're gonna just butt splice that back together, throw some wire loom over it, and we'll be good there. So a couple videos ago, I had told you guys that I lost the controller to this truck, and I think about 3 weeks went by. And last weekend I was outside and we had some snow that melted. And I was gonna go inside and I looked over and I said, okay, I'm gonna go over there and kick that snow around a little bit. And I did find this controller. It was buried in the snow for 3 weeks, and I'll go ahead and play a clip of when I found that controller, and I'll see you back here. So I'm out here kicking around in the snow trying to find my controller because I've looked everywhere. I'm kicking, you can see I'm kicking, and I kick one spot here and look what I find. It's my plow controller buried in the snow. Holy crap. That's awesome. I hope it still works. So before I put it on the charger, I brought it in and started taking it apart, and look at this. It is bone dry. Got a little bit of water around this little cone shaped thing, but other than that, it's in great shape. So I think I can go ahead and plug it in. Hopefully it still works. I plugged it in and it's charging, so I think it is going to work. Let's turn it on, see what happens. And it lit up. Cool. I think we're good. So thankfully it does work. I was able to turn it on and mess around with it. So there you go. It does work, thankfully, because I did look on eBay, and these controllers, there's 2 of them on there that are used, and they're about $350 a piece plus $10 shipping. I'm not willing to pay that much money for them. If I can find one for $1.50, I might go ahead and buy one on eBay, but basically that one that I had bought ended up not being good. I ended up putting that on eBay and getting my money back at least. But very, very happy I found this. So I was pulling out the intake tube here, and I noticed I just put this filter in. I mean, it's a brand new filter. And look at all the crap. I knocked some of it off, but looks like a mouse has been in here already, starting to chew stuff up. There's a whole bunch of stuff down in here too. So I'm gonna have to definitely clean that out again. But this will hopefully give me access to everything down under here a lot easier, getting that out of the way. It's going to be a kind of a pain in the butt, but I'm going to have to work around it. All right, so I got that out. If you look there, there's that little tube, and it connects to the drain. Got the bolts out anyway, so I'm going to try to pry that out of there, and we'll go ahead and put it together on the bench and then stick it back in. But what a pain in the butt. I had to have all kinds of different tools to do that. I needed crow's feet, small extension. I'll show you here. Let's go up and show you what I got. So, here we go. Obviously I needed a socket wrench. There's a crow's foot. There's a little extension, and then I have one of these here, these little hand ratchets, because there's no way you're going to do it with, I mean, you got this much room. It's not much at all. So this was a lot easier. Once I was able to use that and get it kind of loosened up, I could get in there and use this much easier. So kind of a pain in the butt, but we got it. I'm going to go ahead and pry it off, and we'll see you on the bench. You can definitely see all the oil down here. This gasket is brittle. It's very, very bad shape here, and You know, it's just old, and it was leaking from here. So I think it was leaking from this gasket and also from that hose, because I sprayed this hose with brake clean and cleaned it up around here, and it was, you can see it was kind of puddling up. So we'll go ahead and get this all cleaned up in the parts washer, get that gasket scraped off of there, clean the other side, and get that put back on. All right, got it all cleaned up here. Looks good. I got it sprayed down with brake clean. And we're going to go ahead and put this one on. So let's see, it was like that. We'll go ahead and stick this hose on. And I want to make sure I can get at these hose clamps. So I think it was like that. We're going to go ahead and tighten it up there. There we go. All right, we'll take it over to the truck, put it on. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the other mating surface off with some brake clean and make sure it's good to go. And should be good and fixed on this one. Well, that's done, thankfully, because that sucked. So, got that oil leak fixed. But while I was under here, I noticed that the boot on my lower ball joint on the passenger side is ripped. So that means in a future video, we'll be tackling that. And also, if you go to the back here, we'll go to the back and I'll show you something else I found when I was working back here. Is this emergency brake cable here is all rusted out and messed up. So that's another thing we'll be tackling in a future video. But I'm gonna go ahead and change out that wire for the glow plug, or at least crimp it back together if I can do that. So let's go ahead and get that done and we'll move on to the wheel cylinder. All right, guys, so you look down there, I got that wire crimped back together. I like to use the crimps that have the heat shrink on it. So what's nice is that was a tight spot. That took me a long time to get that actually crimped back together like that. But what's nice is if you got a little torch like this, these are like 10 bucks or something. If you go into any gas station, it seems like they got them. But this little butane torch is amazing, and you can lock it in the on position here so that you can just kind of leave it go and then put it wherever you need the heat. So I was able to get that in there and get that all shrunk down. But I'm gonna go ahead and I got some of this wire loom. I'm gonna throw that on there and we'll call that good. So I got that in. I got all the intake stuff back together. And I want to go ahead and we'll move on to this wheel sensor here. So in the video I made on these ramps, the one major issue that people didn't like about it was that they said you can't work on the wheels. You can't pull the wheels off. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to get around that and maybe give you guys another idea here. So I've put a really heavy duty piece of that's C-channel. I believe it's 4-inch C-channel on there, and a scissor jack. Now with a car, the scissor jack works really well so that you can just hit the lip here where it's meant to be jacked up. But however, on this truck, the frame is sitting inward more. So I'm putting this across here, and we're gonna use that scissor jack, that electric scissor jack, and we're gonna lift this whole truck up using that so that we can work on this front wheel. So let me set you up on a tripod and let's see how this works. And now we're off. There we go. So that worked out pretty good. The only concern I'm going to have here is whether this tire will come off. I think it will, but because of this lip. So let me get this wheel off and we'll see. All right, so we're gonna have to go up more. This lip does get in the way, so let's go up more. Right there, that'll be enough. So it didn't take a whole lot. Get this tire off, and then the only issue I see here is the only thing holding this up is that scissor jack. And I guess what I could do is get another one of those C-channels, put it right next to it, and throw a jack stand on it. Brakes are about half gone, but since we're not doing that, I may just go ahead and let this thing down. And we'll find that sensor. I think it's right here, this wire. So let me let this down. All right, I feel pretty good with that. That's a pretty good height for me. And as you can see, I've got a sit-down creeper. So that works out really nice. I can just sit here and work really easily. Look at this mud up here. I can't even, like, it's so hard. I'm having a hard time chiseling it off. But I got to get all that off because there's a nut right here. This is the wire that for the sensor, and it also bolts to the frame right there, so I got to get that off. But I think I'm gonna have to pull, looks like I'm gonna have to pull the caliper and the rotor and everything off, so we'll go ahead and get that going. I am gonna take a needle scaler and just kind of pound away at this stuff. I mean, it's all up in here. It's terrible. All right, so I got the rotor off, caliper and rotor off here, and it looks like I'm gonna have to pull the hub. So before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in, and let's just see if it takes care of that ABS light. So let me find this plug here. We'll get this sucker plugged in. There we go. Now there's the sensor. We'll go ahead and see if that ABS light went off. All right, we're inside here. Anti-lock brake. Oh, it went off. Start it and see what happens here. Light went off, so that sensor's definitely bad. We're gonna go ahead and get it changed out then. Perfect. All right, so after enough monkeying around with this thing, I finally realized that you got these holes here, and they line up with the bolts that bolt down your bearing hub. And basically this plate here was in my way, and I had a hell of a time getting that bolt out. And it's still hot, but the head on it actually fits a 9/16 now, so it's smaller. It's rusted away that far. So that's what I used to get it out. But here's this old sensor, and I'm just getting ready to pull it out here. There we go. And so we're gonna go ahead and put the new one in. But what a pain. It's kind of been a pain. This whole truck is. But we're gonna make it right. Make sure I don't have any metal on the end here. All right. There we go. So I'll go ahead and get that all bolted down. We'll get it all put back together, and we'll see where we go from there. Well, got everything back together. I started it. Wanted to see if everything was good. Ran about 5 minutes and we're leaking again. That little spot right there, I cleaned up the big mess it had, but that little spot there is actually coming from the transmission cooler lines. So I'm gonna go online. There's a company that I heard about called inlinetube.com. They have the entire set for this truck, so we're gonna go ahead and order that entire set, and we'll be back next weekend to probably do that. I'm hoping next weekend we'll see how that goes, but I'll probably go ahead and place an order for some other stuff here too. We'll see how that goes, but I think for now I'm gonna hang this video up, and we got something else done on it. I thought I'd be able to get it roadworthy, but those lines need to be replaced. So we're gonna do that before it's roadworthy. I did start it. The ABS light did go off, so that's not a problem anymore. I've got no more warning lights on the dash. When I first got this truck, it was lit up like a Christmas tree. It's pretty good now. So I hope you guys liked the video. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you just enjoyed watching me work. So I'll see you on the next video, and you guys take care. Have a good one.